Already said
A four-part series tracing the history of the Moody Blues.
goodbye.
This week, part 1. Go Now.
Since you gotta go, oh, you better go now.
Go Now was the Moody Blues' first hit, but their origins go back much further, to the late 50s. The scene was Birmingham. John Lodge recalls his first encounter with Ray Thomas at the age of 15.
We had a group called El Right and the Rebels, which we used to perform for 12 and 6 a night between us, including transportation. And used to have all the youth clubs
In Birmingham.
in Birmingham,
Yeah,
around
and pubs.
Birmingham, and pubs.
So that really was the beginning of it all. I mean, did you meet through the band, or did you know each other from school or something else?
I can't remember how I met you, actually. It's been too
No.
long ago.
I think Ray was on the bus, with all his equipment, and I was on the bus with all my equipment, and asked him where he was going, which youth club to play. And I think that's really how it started, and that's where we first met. Because you used to use the bus service, for transport.
You have to stand on the platform with your amps.
Yeah, and they used to charge you sometimes. Drummers that usually had to pay extra fare.
Yeah.
Child's fare.
It was much easier when they brought the buzzers in. The trams were a right drag.
Another founder member of the Moody Blues started as a roadie, though the term had hardly been coined then. Keyboard player Mike Pinder.
We used to meet at a music store on Saturday mornings, that kind of thing. Everybody got to know each other, playing the same gig. And I remember I finished off with a band that I was doing. I was getting frustrated. I wanted to do more things. And so I joined Ray basically as a sort of helper out, come manager, come organizer, that kind of thing. And then started sitting in on keyboard in the band, just for a few gigs. And that's about as far as that went.
In those days, Ray, John and Mike were known as El Riot and the Rebels. Ray, as El Riot, was renowned for a certain stage entrance.
Yeah, I used to come flying through the air and land on my knees. Yeah, I used to go on a chair or a table or something and try and take a flying leap. It used to look quite spectacular, really.
We used to wear Mexican outfits, sombrero hats, imitation suede trousers, and bolero jackets, and white cowboy boots, which had to be painted black after a few concerts, of course. And we used to play for about £5 a night between us all.
What sort of music was it?
We were playing a lot of American things, because the English music scene was a bit tough at that time, it was coming into the cover version era, when the only way you got a record is if there was a record climbing the American charts and you could get in and record it before it was released in England.
Were you writing your own stuff
No,
then?
I wasn't writing at all. And in actual fact, Ray and I went to a recording studio in Birmingham, I think they're still there, and Ray said we should go and record a couple of songs, because you want to hear what it sounds like when it's on record. So we went in and recorded Down the Line and Blue Moon. So I suppose that's where we were at that time.
Candy, my lovely baby, you ain't got a start. I'm gonna get so real, gonna love a little try, have a cool cat while we're rolling down the line. We'll get that love is truly fine. Well, we'll move on down the line, get that love is truly fine. She'll be cool and twice as hard. Wish I stood me, gotta go, we'll rolling down the line. We'll get that love is truly fine. Come on, Pony boy. Stood me, you gotta go, we'll rolling down the line. We'll get that love is truly fine.
Yeah, go ahead now.
Well, as you move on down the line, get that love is truly fine. To be cool and twice as gone. Wish I stood me, gotta go, we're rolling down the line. We'll get that
We apologise for the quality of this, but it was a 78 RPM demo made some 17 years ago, the Moody Blues' first attempt at recording, never, perhaps fortunately, released. On what would have possibly been the B-side, their unique interpretation of Blue Moon.
Blue moon, you saw me standing alone, without a dream in my heart, without a love of my own. Blue moon, you saw me standing alone, without a dream in my heart, without a love of my own. Blue moon, oh, it's a blue, blue moon. Well, that's a blue, blue moon. Oh, it's a blue, blue moon. Blue moon, you saw me standing there without a single care. Oh, it's a blue, blue moon. Oh, it's a blue, blue moon. Oh, it's a blue, blue moon. Oh, it's a blue, blue moon.
We used to meet at this music shop in Birmingham called Jack Woodruff's. And you had to get in there like 10 o'clock in the morning. And then these infamous agents would come in and say, who's free tonight? We've got a show up in Ellesmere Port or one at Stoke-on-Trent. And it's worth £10, you know. And as we were probably getting £3 a night by this time, you know, £10 was like, you know, the end of the world, you know. And it was going to be a stage. You know, he wasn't going to play on the floor. And it might even have curtains. So we'd, you know, we'd all rush home and grab all of our equipment, find out whose dad had got a car that we could borrow, because the bosses hadn't used to go that far, you know. And we'd zoom off to wherever the gig was. And we'd always end up supporting somebody like Screaming Lord Such.
Then
for a long
it split
time.
up when Ray and Mike went to Germany.
Then we stopped working. I think we'd achieved the most we could do. We've been voted sort of Birmingham's #1 band, I suppose, a couple of years running in different competitions. There's like 3 or 4 different competitions. So, of course, the next thing was the record contract. And I remember EMI were holding auditions, and there was 25 Birmingham bands going. And, of course, I mean, we just strolled up there. This is it, you know, this is the big one. And we failed. We were not deemed good material. You know, there was no formula. There was nothing to aim for except the record contract, which should, you know, we thought would come.
Mm.
But this was still at the time of English copies of American songs. And it was just at this time when the Beatles came out with Please Please Me. And we played 2 shows with the Beatles in those days.
What did you think of them?
It was just fantastic. All I remember, they was getting £100 and we was only getting 12. So I thought it must be good. And they were playing things which I hadn't heard of before. And I just thought, well, where did they find all these songs, you know? And of course, Germany was the answer, really. I mean, you get to Germany and you find the most obscure songs that people were playing in the clubs. Which was fantastic.
Was it so because of the Beatles then that you decided to go to Germany?
Well, no, it's because we failed basically as a group in getting this record contract, because there's nowhere else to go to that. I mean, you can't get bigger than, you know, £20 at a nightclub and £15 at a pub. You know, you couldn't get any bigger than that unless you had a hit record. I mean, there's only so much lipstick you can write on your own van. Yeah. So what happened then, Ray said he was going to go to Germany. And he said, do I fancy doing it? I said no. At that stage I wasn't, because I was still at college. I was still trying to get something behind me and something to fall back on.
Although he was not to meet the Moody Blues for some years to come, Justin Hayward, some 60 miles away in Swindon, was feeling the first stirrings of musicianship in his young bones.
All I wanted was a guitar. When I was 10, I got a guitar. I had a ukulele first, and then a guitar, and then joined a skiffle group, and then away we went.
Well, what sort of year are we talking about now?
We're talking about, say, very early 60s, say 58 to 64. And then I finally left school, and I looked in the Melody Maker. I was taking the Melody Maker, and there was an ad for a guitar player, so I answered it. And it was for Marty Wilde, and I went up to see Marty, and I got the job and everything. And that was fantastic. I spent nearly 18 months with Marty.
Did you make any records with him?
Yeah, I made 2 records for Decca, in fact.
What records were they?
Well, we were just trying to think just now. It was called The Wild 3, but I can't remember the titles.
Since you're gone, and your memory lingers on. Who think a love like ours could part and leave behind a broken heart that pines for you? Since you're gone, and your memory lingers on. Since you're gone, and your memory lingers on. Yes, your memory lingers on. Yes, your memory lingers on. Yes, your memory lingers on.
Since You've Gone, one of Justin's records with the Wild 3. Another was this, sort of Jimmy Cross meets Roy Orbison.
Well, I just got your letter this morning. And you know, when I picked up the letter, I was wondering just what I'd find. Now the letter you sent is lying right here before me. And baby, I know now what's on your mind.
I tell you how I cried. I tell you I almost died. Let me tell you how I cried.
Well, it's hard to believe what was written in that letter. I thought I really understood and knew you, but I didn't. All my hopes and my dreams have vanished. Everything I had. And my mind is going crazy.
I tell you how I cried. I tell you I almost died. Let me tell you how I cried.
Oh, tell you just what my feelings are, and just to say a sad goodbye to you. 'Cause I want you to know how it feels to have no tomorrow, to have nothing at all, when the one you love's untrue. I tell you how I cried. I tell you I almost died. Let me tell you how I cried. Cried. Let me tell you, baby. Oh, I cried.
It was straight into the deep end. It really was. I was doing cabaret. It's very hard work. I mean, I was playing guitar in the band, and then a lot of the other guys left, and it came down to just me and Marty, and his wife Joyce. I mean, he taught me a lot. So that's the most important thing, because he is so good, and he was. You know, he was the only person from those days really that was writing his own material. I mean, he wrote Bad Boy and a couple of other things, you know, other hits that he had, and. He taught me how to sing properly, and because I was never like a natural singer, I had to sort of teach myself to sing. And he taught me that that the most important thing I should do was write, and that's when I started writing songs as well. And then when I left Marty, I made a couple of records on my own.
As Justin Hayward?
As Just Hayward, yeah.
On what label were those?
One on Pi, and one on Parlophone.
What was the Pi one called?
It's called London Is Behind Me.
London is behind me and I'm stuck out on the motorway. Two lifts this morning, they were both going my way. I don't care if the sun never shines. I've got love and where she is you will find me. I'm on my way to see her after 2 weeks in the city. Rang her up this morning, I said expect me when you see me. I don't care if the sun never shines. I've got love and where she is you will find me. I know by 12 o'clock I'll be there. I know she's waiting for me there come what may. Hey, the car's all laid up and I can't afford the train fare. All I've got's to quit, so I save it till I get there. I don't care if the sun never shines. I've got love and where she is you will find me. I'll be there soon, so rain for all I care. I'll be there soon if I have to walk there all the way. Hey, hey, London is behind me and I'm stuck out on the motorway. Two lifts this morning, they were both going my way. I don't care if the sun never shines. I've got love and where she is you will find me. I've got love and where she is you will find me. I've got love and where she is you will find me.
I was excited to be able to get in the studio. That's all I really wanted to do. But all I could see it as well as a struggle to get something done, to get my own ideas done. And, you know, being absolutely on your own making records, you're prey to a lot of other things. You have to accept deals where maybe you think, well, I know this isn't the right deal, and I know this is not the right producer for me, or anything, but I've got to do it because it's just a foot on the ladder. You know?
Yeah.
And then the second one was out on Parlophone, and that was called Can't Face the World Without You.
Both that you wrote yourself?
Yeah, and both were dreadful. I mean, they didn't deserve to do anything.
Girl, I saw you dancing last night with a new guy. He was holding you so tight, I saw it don't lie. Please, don't say that it's all over. Please, I can't face the world without you. I
wasn't happy with them at the time, no. I'm still never happy with really 100% with records, but I'm a lot happier now than I was then.
Do you have a manager in those days?
No, I had a publisher, which was Lonnie Donegan, who signed me up. I signed a crazy contract. I mean, I hold nothing against Lonnie and everything or anything, but it was a crazy contract. I signed when I was, 17, which was for a long time, for about 7 years. And, of course, when I went on to make it and everything with the Moody's, then they still had me under contract for all those songs, you know, all the Nights in White Satin, a lot of the biggies for the Moody's were still with that company. I mean, I admire Lonnie very much. I think he's a great performer, and he's always been a good mate. But I couldn't get out of the contract. I could never get out of the contract.
Were you very confident that things were going to turn out all right?
Totally. Always have been, right from the beginning, yeah. That's one thing I can honestly say, right from, I don't know, the age of 10, I knew that it was going to happen somehow.
Meanwhile, in Hamburg, Mike Pinder and Ray Thomas were experiencing German show business at its most hair-raising, as Mike recalls.
They were crazy days, you know. I can remember doing things like poison ivy with a toilet seat around my neck, you know, at 4 o'clock in the morning. Just crazy things went on. One club we did, all of a sudden a guy bursts in through the doors and he clubs 3 waiters on the back of the head with a revolver and then starts to shoot the place up, you know, and Ray and I said, get behind the piano, it's got an iron frame, you know. And we're both behind the piano there while this guy's shooting up the whole place.
What were the conditions like?
Oh, diabolical. It was, you know, really was rough. You know, everybody's sleeping in really dirty bunks that move sideways in the night, you know. There's been so many bands sleeping in them. I only slept there one night. I was the following day, when we first got there, I went down to what the place called a Mambo Shanky where all the English bands used to go and eat. And a girl sat down, she said, you live with me, yeah? So I thought, well, it's got to be better and you get your shirts washed as well.
What made everybody go to Hamburg particularly anyway?
Well, English bands were getting a lot of recognition with the German kids. And this was just prior or around the same era as the Mersey boom. I mean, that's where the sound came from, really, was Hamburg. It didn't come from Liverpool at all. I mean, it just got really raunchy and heavy offbeat, and that offbeat is a drummer who's knackered and just sitting there just going smack, smack, and just laying it down all night. And, I mean, I don't think Mersey Beat was conceived by the Mersey. It was conceived on the Hamburg docks, you know.
Interesting.
And the haircuts. I mean, everybody, you know, started to get long hair, because who the hell's going to allow Crab Barber loose, you know, with a pair of scissors? I mean, you come out looking as though you should be a fugitive from Battle of the Bulge, you know, and nobody had their haircut.
Then, presumably, you wanted to come home?
The guy we worked for just threw our passports at us and said, you leave. Except we had a look at the passport and he cancelled the work visas. And so we couldn't go to the police and say we've been working in Hanover, and he won't pay us. And they'll just say, well, you shouldn't be working in any event. You know, your work permit's out of date, which was in November of '63. And so we had to walk home. And it's a long walk from Hamburg to Birmingham. It really is a good walk. The frost in Ostend when we got there was cracking under our feet. Well, it was so cold we couldn't, we didn't stand still, we just walked around the town until the following day, because we were waiting for the English consul to apply to, you know, tell him about our plight, and hopefully he's going to, you know, give us a rubber duck to sail across the channel. And when we went into the British consul, we never actually saw him. He was in his room, and the girl went in and told him he got 2 English rock musicians who were absolutely broken, been diddled out of their money, and they wanted to go home. And he said, good God, I'm actually sick of bailing these people out. Just tell them to go away and get together and all this. And so I just said rather loudly, if you don't give us the money, Mike, to get home, I'm going to throw a brick through a big shop window, which is what the remember the group called the Undertakers? They did that. And they ended up when the police arrived with bras and on their head and in a lingerie window in Hanover. So you get deported home then, you see. Which is better than, you know, it's far more sensible than walking, really. And so I said, that's what I'm going to do. And so he literally gave us our fare and 5 shillings each, which we had to sign a piece of paper and agree to pay back.
For Mike, his first job on return was to have a profound effect on the later distinctive Moody Blues sound.
I saw this ad for a company called Malatronics. And they wanted somebody with musical experience in electronic experience or know-how in a practical manner. And I went along and saw the Mellotron and said, I'm your man, you know. And started working with them, went through the whole process of how the Mellotron was built, its conception and everything. And then ended up being the tester, so that when the machines came off the line, you know, about one every 2 days at that time, I would totally go through the machine, play it, set and time the tapes and things like that.
While Ray and Mike had been playing in Hamburg, John Lodge had struck out on his own.
I formed a group to back Gene Vincent called the Carpetbaggers, and we got this band together. Never ever rehearsed, never once in the whole history of the band rehearsed. And we used to make it up while we were going along, you know. I mean, there was only 3 of us, but we did augment to 4. We did get a pianist in the end who could play everything in C. So we had to play nearly all our songs in C because all he could do was bash out a 12-bar in C. But he looked good, you know. I mean, he got all the movement. He could jump on the piano and kick the piano over and things like this to create havoc. It was amazing because in the first, 3 months of this Carpetbaggers, with no rehearsals, we went from, 2 gigs a week to 6 gigs a week, and we was earning, £150 a night. Well, then we made another record for that. And it was the first song I wrote called Blues, Stay Away From Me.
Blues, stay away from me. Cry like that you shouldn't see. Blues in the night, I hear you say that I should be near blues. Stay away from me. Cry like never did before. Last night when you closed that door, I died for the first time I saw you. You hid the love that I showed you. Stay away from me. Away from you is not where I want to be. Away from you, oh no, 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 no. Blues in the night, I hear you say that I should be near blues. Stay away from me. Blues, stay away from me.
Then I just came to the end of the college thing, you know, passed my exams. And so I said, that's it, I'm off. I'm going to be professional and down to London, basically, with this band Jumble Breed. And went to Germany, spent 3 or 4 months in Germany, playing all the clubs, all the notorious clubs. Sort of different side of life I've never experienced in my life before. I mean, you'd start off all proper. The beginning of the month contract, you'd get on and you'd do your hour. 55 minutes, I think it was. Stop after 55 minutes, come off. And then the other band would come on for 55 minutes, then stop. And then you'd change over and just go on all night. All day and all night. And you'd start this, and then, of course, as it goes along, you suddenly find other attractions that think, well, I don't really want to be on stage all that long. And so you'd change with someone. You'd say, hey, listen, would you like to stand in for me tonight? And I'll stand in for you tomorrow. You know, the bands, you know, say they're all... And I remember one Saturday night, it was a big night, and there was a special party on. And so I remember going and covering myself, and I said, listen, can you cover for me tonight? Because I've got something I really want to do tonight. And unbeknown to me, everyone else had done the same. And I sort of left the club at about 6 o'clock in the evening. About 11 o'clock I went back. There's no music, nothing at all. And I could hear all these people, they were laughing and shouting and screaming. And the club had got about probably 1,000 people in there. And I went in, there was our drummer on stage painting the scenery with a paintbrush. Absolutely smashed out of his brain. There was nobody left. There was one musician in the whole club. And so he just got up and just painted the scenery. And like everybody there loved him.
With John in Germany, the nucleus of the original Moody Blues was now being formed. Enter drummer Graham Edge.
Mike Pinder, in fact, came over to my house when Danny and I were staying and gave us a bit of chat. And we went over and met the other boys, and then we sort of planned what we were going to do. And we were going to have, because at that time we were about 24 and we thought we were getting pretty old for rock and roll. So we thought this was going to be our last bite of the apple. So we had all these plans, which meant turning completely professional.
The final Moody Blues lineup was as a result of some pretty ruthless purloining of the groups around Birmingham.
Danny was in Danny Lane and the Diplomats, and we carved up the Danny Lane and the Diplomats.
We carved up 4 bands in total, actually.
We carved up Danny Lane and the Diplomats and the Avengers, and we formed. And then there was us, Spencer Davis, and Al Riot. And then Al Riot carved up another band, and they formed, and then we formed, and that only left us and Spencer Davis, so we could all eat.
After all the cards had been shuffled, Ray Thomas enumerates the first lineup.
There was myself, Graham, Mike, Clint Warwick on bass, and Denny Lane on lead.
What has happened to Clint Warwick?
I mean, I haven't seen him for donkey's years. The last time we heard of him, he was doing his scrap metal in Birmingham.
Who thought of the name?
We were stuck with a couple of initials because we called ourselves originally the M&B 5, you see. And we were hoping there's a brewery in Birmingham called M&B's. And we were stuck with the initials because we thought M&B's might give us some money for some equipment and some beer. And we got in touch with them, and they sort of said no. So, and we'd got sort of known under them initials, so we had to try and figure out a name that fitted those initials. And then Pindy and Tomo came up with Moody Blues.
Well, blues was an obvious one for B.
We were playing blues at the time as well. I don't know if you remember the Magnificent Moody's, that dusting covered in encased golden old mouldy oldie.
And I'll be alright. Oh, yeah. And I'll be alright, children. Oh, yeah. And I'll be alright. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, give me up, baby. If you leave me, I'll go crazy. If you leave me, baby, I'll go crazy. 'Cause I love it, I love it. Oh, let it grow. And if you hurt me, I'll go crazy. If you never gonna hurt me, baby, I'll go crazy. 'Cause I love it, I love it. Oh, let it grow. You gotta live for yourself, and nobody else. You gotta live for yourself, and nobody else. Oh, baby, I'll go crazy. If I ever leave you, baby, I'll go crazy. 'Cause I love it, I love it. Oh, you gotta live for yourself, and nobody else. You gotta live yourself, and oh, love me, love me. Now if it hurt me, baby, you know that I'll go crazy. 'Cause I love it, I love it. Oh, I love it much more than I can say.
The reason we came down to London, once we got the original 5 guys together, we were playing in a club called the Motas. And a friend of Johnny Fenton's and Tony Secunda's, Alex Murray, Simon Milamondi, who were looking for a band to sink their little money into. They were looking around for a band. And a guy called Tim Hudson, who was selling refrigerators at that particular time, came into the club in Birmingham and saw where we were working and found those guys up. And they came down and saw us and realised the talent.
They went into a studio to make their first record. Was it a successful title?
No, the first one was Lose Your Money, and we did.
Did you think at the time that it was going to do something?
No, we were just absolutely knocked out that we'd finally made it onto a piece of black plastic. I mean, that was all the world that was it. What? Go drive back up Birmingham and my latest record on the Saturday morning.
Didn't know what it sounded like.
Everybody talking to that girl of mine, 'cause they realize that she's so fine. Lose your money, but don't lose your mind. Lose your woman, but don't go with mine. I heard you lost your woman, 'cause you did it wrong. Gambled all your money, playing dice. Lose your money, but don't lose your mind. Lose your woman, but don't go with mine.
The whole thing, though, they cut our hair and put me on a diet and vitamin B12 injections.
I used to have to give them injections in the morning.
Oh, really? And trained, and we went and people showed us how to have photographs taken, you know, and posed. That's why all the
Everybody was laughing.
shots were all...
Everybody was laughing at the time in publicity shops and leaping in the air like the Beatles. Even the Stones were smiling. And that was, I mean, they had a few good ideas in actual fact for early launches. And it was like everybody else smiles and it's Mersey beat and everything's happy. Don't smile. Really strange titles like the Grave Digger Look.
Because
we didn't make any money. We had a party one night. This was about 2 years after this, wasn't it? And I walked into the office on a Monday morning with a bill for 200 quid. And this is the height of the Go Now success. And said, you know, can I have the money to pay the bill? And they hadn't got it.
They went bankrupt that afternoon.
They said, we'll have it after you've done the show tonight, you know. But funny enough, no, seriously, nobody seems to know where the money went. I didn't get 62 grand's worth of suits, that's for sure.
No.
And harmonicas were very much cheaper than that, that's for sure.
You were given £30 a week each.
That's it.
And
that was, I mean, we agree with them too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we thought it was great.
So, did they organise your sort of original recording contract with Decca?
Yes.
Yeah, it was done on a lease tape deal too. So we didn't have any contact with Decca either, you see, as a band.
We were signed to them and they were signed to Decca. And the difference in royalty rates was quite interesting.
So you were still presumably playing around Birmingham all that time, yeah?
No, we'd actually had come down to London and had a lot of very lucky breaks because Manfred Mann was playing at Marquee and he fell sick this one time.
Oh, it was Paul Jones, he got laryngitis.
Yeah.
He couldn't sing. And they pulled out, they were looking for a band and we were available. So we pinched their night, one night a week at the Marquee.
And about 2 weeks after that, of course, the same thing happens with the Stones over at the Crawdaddy. And there we were, regular at the Crawdaddy, so you couldn't ask for a much more lucky start than that. In fact, from forming the band, going all through these stories, the Moody Blues side of it that you've been hearing, and being #1 in the charts on it took from May the 4th. May the 4th we formed, and January the 13th, I think it was, because we always said 13 was a lucky number. 65. January was a hit.
Yeah.
It was a hit.
It was
so
before 64.
It all happened in
It was
nights.
#1 in 65.
Yeah, I remember that
It was
very
like
well.
6 months, you know, that was it.
You must have been fairly amazed, actually, by the...
I know a day of the week.
Well, no, because we thought that's what happened when you went to these blokes and they says we're going to make you a star. We didn't know that some of them didn't make you stars. We just thought, God, blimey, so you know in this business, innit? You know, and we thought it was quite natural.
Well, who decided that you should do Go Now?
We did.
Yeah, we did.
We did. They bought a whole stack of American 45s.
There's a strange situation in the business. Well, people thought that ours was a remake of Go Now, which it was not. It was the original. Bessie Banks had never made a full-blooded shot at Go Now.
No, see,
It was done literally in a top halfpenny studio with a brother playing piano, very, very slowly, and she just cut an acetate and it just got sent over. I mean, when she did record it, the piano was a lot heavier, like my Pinder blade. But
And that was afterwards?
The Moody Blues
Oh, yeah.
was the original
Yeah, we
recording
got-
of Go Now.
So you just heard it and thought, right, that's the one?
Yeah, we did actually, didn't we?
Oh, we were knocked out with the song. Only, you know, it is a lovely song.
Yeah.
And, it was rearranged. You know, we arranged it and recorded it.
We've already said since you gotta go, oh, you better go now. Go now, go now, go now. Before you see me cry, I want you to tell me just what you intend to do now. How many times I have to tell you, darling, darling, I'm still in love with you now. We've already said so long. I don't wanna see you go. Oh, you better go now. Go now, go now, go now. Don't you even try. Telling me that you really don't want me to end this way. Darling, darling, can't you see I want you to Since you gotta go, oh, you better go now. Go now, go now, go now. Before you see me cry, I want you to tell me just what you intend to do now. How many times I have to tell you, darling, darling, I'm still in love with you now. I don't wanna see you go, but darling, you better go now.
It was pretty quick for the Moodies to have a hit like that anyway. And you can't manufacture a record that sells worldwide at that scale. It's like Whitest Shade of Pale. Procol have never been able to do that again. And the Moodies, as they stood at that time, could never hope to... They're freaky records. Who can say why everybody likes them at that particular time? And there's much better, maybe, things on the market, but everybody just clicks onto something. I thought it was fantastic. You know, it was the Moody mania and getting pulled off the stage by little girls and everybody screaming and throwing brass clogs at Graham. Somebody knocked him out, you know, at Fairfield Hall at Croydon. Somebody sat at the back and wanted to throw him a little brass clog. And it hit him right on the point of the head, and he nearly went down behind his kit. Went from right up the, you know, it was gathering momentum. That's throwing things on the stage. We beat it around, we didn't like jelly babies, you know, throw money, you know.
So, I mean, you were very happy about being a pop star.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you know, I think that's why we ended up with no money. I mean, we left all our financial affairs to management companies. And I think I got about 30 quid for going out, and an album. And the rest was being looked after.
So there you were, number one. Did they say, right, now you've got a hit single and make an album?
No, the big rush was to make another single, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And in fact, the next
That's
single...
what screwed it a little bit, because they were trying to shoot the gun a little bit, because we could have lived a little bit longer with going out. But it's only sold like, 5-6 million worldwide. That's a lot of records in those days.
So the second single...
They released that, Ray hadn't even put his flute solo on, because if you ever listen to it now, there's a great big bit in the middle where nothing happens. It's supposed to be Ray playing flute.
I don't want to go on without you. It's so bad to be alone. Oh, baby, come home. I need you. Yes, I do now. My room is so blue. I keep seeing your face. Oh, every place. Here in the gloom of my lonely room, I hold her handkerchief and smell her sweet perfume. Yeah, baby, I can't stand to, oh, no, live on without you. Oh, my darling, hear my plea. Come on back to me. Here in the gloom of my lonely room, I hold a handkerchief and smell her sweet perfume. Oh, 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 I can't stand to, oh, no, live on without you. Oh, my darling, hear my plea. Come on back to me. I can't stand it, I can't stand it without you. Don't you go now, don't you go now, don't you go now. I will be so
Here in the gloom of my lonely room. Oh, we didn't half have some great dirty words for that.
And that got to where?
About 19. Nowhere, 19, nowhere. In 3 weeks.
Did you panic at that point?
Well, I think we were still punchy from having a hit in the first place.
So the third single, yes,
That
5.
did better than the second single. I think,
Yeah.
wasn't my-
It took a long time getting there, but it got to about 14. No, it got top 10, didn't it?
Top 10 was,
It got 9, but it was a really one at a time up the charts, because
Yeah.
we were written off by then, and people were refusing to believe that it was happening, you know.
What do you mean you were written off by
One
then?
hit wonders. We were marked down in the trade press and everything. Because, you know, in those days in the charts were a lot looser than they are now, you know. I mean, for 50 quid you could get into the top 30, you know, at the low end and stuff like that. The whole thing was a lot looser, you know. Because it was a new thing here. You know, nobody had no English bands had it before the Beatles, did they?
No.
You know, with the exception of Uncle Cliff.
Yes.
Who, you know, but outside of that, nobody had, and nobody knew there was going to be any longevity with the bands either. Nobody thought the groups was going to be around this long. So it was all, you know, get it in, rake it off and get out.
I can't be anymore. You love me. You gotta realize, baby, realize, baby, day by day I love you. I find no faults in you that I can criticize from the bottom of my heart. Oh, I really love you. Yes, I do now. It didn't take too long to be sure. From the bottom of my heart, oh, I really do. Oh, I really do love you. I really do love you, babe. Yeah, I really do love you.
Who did you go to after your first management fell through?
Oh, well, then we went off and joined...
Brian Epstein and the NEMS
No,
organisation.
we were direct to Brian Epstein. We never signed for NEMS because we were getting a little bit smart by then. And we realised there was a difference signing into a bloke's company and to sign into the bloke. Because the blokes can have companies go bankrupt, but they've got to go bankrupt themselves if you sign to them. So we thought, they'll never get us again. They did, of course. They still do, in fact. But...
So was Brian very happy to take you on?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
he was delighted. He was very good friends with Denny Lane, and I think this was the start of the friendship between Denny and Paul, actually, at this stage. And every day that record we did with him, I must say, he really pulled the stops on that and tried to do everything to make that again. Remember?
Every day, someone finds a love, they say. Finds a love, they say. And I know it will be okay. Yeah, love will come. Love will come. As it does to everyone. Everyone. Though I know it won't be too easy. Yeah.
with him altogether then?
Oh, not long. 7, 8 months.
By now then you still hadn't got any money?
No, not
I mean, really no money.
I was better off as a tool maker and playing the pub financially by that stage. I think.
Yeah, because when this is about the time that Josh and John arrived, and when they arrived, John had to sell his bass equipment to get us enough money to get abroad, because we couldn't stay in England because I was on the
we were on the run.
third red tax, you know, give us the money, otherwise we lock you up.
After the success of Go Now, not a very promising position to find themselves in. But next week, the Moody Blues fortunes take a turn for the better, and the music changes drastically.
We've already said
The Moody Blues story was presented by Anne Nightingale and produced...